Okay, let's begin with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for another Sabbath day. Thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for the good weather that we have this morning. We ask that you continue to be with Pastor Smith with his health crisis. Please guide and give them peace and comfort as he's going through that. Please be with Tammy's daughter Mary. We've got also asked for Marlon's brother in Kuwait. Please keep him safe. I ask for you to be with Johnny's sister Diane, the Hester family. Also be with and keep the GCA students safe as they go to Cambodia. And last of all, please be with our country as we're going through these crises and the things that we see playing out in prophecy as a fulfillment of the time of the end. Please be with us all and keep us safe and be with our leaders. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Let's see. I think we left off on question 10. Kidding. We're not in that lesson. I don't know when we'll be back in it. We'll be back in it one day. So last week we were looking at, I'm a nerd. I'm a history nerd. And I was showing you from history how we've seen this Sabbath issue come up in the government of our country and how it played out. And so I'm going to show you some more on this, and where it ends up is where I really want to get to, but I want to show you how we got there and how it worked its way through Congress and how these different groups kind of guided things and kind of got us to that point. So last week we were, Amy?
Right now.
Okay, we'll skip through our verses this week since we're running a little bit behind. Okay.
Robert, I have a
Yes.
quick question. It'll only take you 10 seconds to answer. Are we done with the questions on lesson 11 and the exhibit, and now we're in a rabbit hole between 11 and 12?
That's a great question, Gary. We're actually still in lesson 11, and I actually don't know where we are in lesson 11, but we're still in that lesson after the exhibit. So we will at some point finish up lesson 11 and then move on to lesson 12. Yeah, there's some good stuff coming, but we're still in lesson 11.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of title my note page correctly.
Okay, no, great question. No, we're still in 11.
Thank you.
Okay, no, you're welcome. Okay, so last week we looked at this group or union, if you will. It's called the Women's Christian Temperance Union. They were organized back in the late 1800s, and they were really kind of targeting drinking and alcohol consumption and that kind of thing. And then they developed a department of Sabbath observance. And this Josephine Cushman Bateman was their first superintendent of that department. And this group, the National Women's Christian Temperance Union, you'll see that referenced in these different things that we're going to talk about in Congress. And they were really at the forefront of pushing this Sabbath observance. Now, Sabbath, keep in mind when it refers to the Sabbath in all of this, it's talking about Sunday. Talking about Sunday. So we kind of left off our timeline last week. We looked at in March 29 of 1888. We saw these different memorials to the Sabbath that were presented as petitions there in Congress. So then 2 months later, things really start gaining momentum, and that's where we left off last week. So in the congressional record there for the 50th Congress, we'll see this here. So these are bills that were introduced. And Mr. Blair, and you're going to see him over and over again, but Mr. Blair is a Republican senator from New Hampshire, and he introduced a bill S-298 for this Ellen Thornton, but the one we want to focus on here is this bill S-2983 to secure to the people to the enjoyment of the first day of the week as a day of rest and promote its observance as a day of religious worship, which was read twice by title. So they presented this bill, and it is a bill for Sunday to be the National Day of Rest. So in this, he says, I wish to say in regard to this bill that as the Senate has observed many thousands of petitions and citizens of the United States have been presented during this and the former Congress for the better observance of the Sabbath day. So they're getting just bombarded with petitions from these different groups to keep the Sabbath. These petitions were referred to the Committee on Education and Labor, which gave the representatives of the petitioners a hearing. They were requested to formulate a bill embodying their ideas, but have failed to do so. And at that request, I have endeavored to draw one which I think facilitate their purposes. I move that the bill is referred to the Committee on Education and Labor. So they have been pushing for this bill. And they had a hearing, it didn't go anywhere. So the senator is picking it up to take it forward. So he introduces this bill, S 2983. It's not a long bill, and the bill, if you remember from the old Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a law. This is a bill. It's not a law yet, it's a bill. So this bill that he proposed is in the Senate on May 21st, as Mr. Blair introduced the following bill, which was read twice, referred to as Committee on Education and Labor. It says a bill to secure to the people the enjoyment of the first day of the week, commonly known as Lord's Day, as a day of rest, to promote its observance as a religious day or as a day of religious worship. So this is putting it forward as being a religious day of worship. We're not going to read the whole bill, it's just this first paragraph. It says, being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that no person or corporation or agent, servant or employee of any person or corporation shall perform or authorize to be performed any secular work, labor, or business to the disturbance of others, works of necessity and mercy and humanity accepted, nor shall any person engage in any play, game, or amusement or recreation to the disturbance of others on the first day of the week, commonly known as Lord's Day, or during any part thereof, in any territory, district, vessel, or place subject to the exclusive jurisdiction of the United States, nor shall it be lawful for any person or corporation to receive pay for labor or service performed or rendered in violation of this section. So they're laying it out. It sounds very similar to Constantine's law back in 313. Very similar. Constantine referred to it as the day of the sun, but this is prohibiting any work, play, or pay for anything done on that day. So this was a bill that he put forth there on May 21st, bill, the Sunday law. It's not a law yet, it's just a bill. So the 50th Congress, Congress has two sessions. Each congressperson, as you know, serves for 2 years. There's a first session and a second session. That was in the first session of the 50th Congress. So now we're going to look to the second Congress, which happened after, I think it was like a 5 or 6 week break. And then they started the second session. And in the second session, we see they have a hearing on this bill. Order these slides. So the Sunday rest bill, it goes for a hearing in December, and then they print this hearing, the results of this hearing, they print this the very next January, but the hearing was actually held on December 13th. And we see this who's heard of this person? Yeah. Okay. So he comes to this hearing on this Sunday rest bill. And if you haven't read about this, let me know. If anybody's interested, I can send you the whole hearing. This is just, it's called miscellaneous document number 43. It is the entire hearing. If you want to read it, it's very interesting. These are all the people that were there at the hearing. Senator Blair is the president of the hearing, and all these different religious leaders come in and talk. Most of them are for the Sunday bill. Jones is against it, and most of the hearing is from Jones. Mm-hmm. Everybody else gets up and talks. They don't say much. Jones talks for a long time. That man can talk. So, let's see here. What do we do here? Okay, so yeah. All right, so out of all these pages of their conversation back and forth, this little part of the conversation I thought was interesting. Says the chairman says, you admit there was a Sabbath before Christ came, and they get off in the weeds so deep, but it's interesting, and they're arguing like lawyers. So Jones says, certainly, chairman, and he said he came not to destroy, but to fulfill. Jones, certainly. Chairman, is there anything in the New Testament which destroys the Sabbath already existing? No, sir. Then why does it not continue to exist? Jones, it does exist, and we keep the commandment which provides for the Sabbath. Then you say there is a Sabbath recognized, and that is equivalent to its reaffirmation by Christ. Jones, certainly. I do not see from what you're stating, but that Christ recognized an existing law and that it is continuing at the present time. You say that it is one day, and they say it is another. Jones, but they are after a law to enforce the first day of the week when they confess that Christ never gave any command at all in regard to it. The commandment God gave says the seventh day is the Sabbath. So they talk about the Sabbath and how it's been changed, and all these other groups, how they're pushing this, but yet it's not changed anywhere in the Bible. It's a great conversation. If you're interested, just let me know after class and I can email it out to the whole class. You want to hear it? Okay, I'll send Amy, make a note for me because I'll forget. Yeah, I'll email it out to you to the class, and then you can read it. It's hard to read because it's amazing how deep these guys get in this conversation back and forth. They were well prepared. Okay, so then you've got this hearing or the bill, and then this hearing on the bill. So we proceed forth with things that are happening in the background as this law is making it, so this bill is continuing to make its way forward. So now we're going to look in the index on this congressional record. You can look by a keyword or you can look by a date. So I just looked up Sunday just to see all the bills that have the word Sunday or that deal with Sunday. These are all the bills, petitions for a bill to enforce observance of Sunday. You got all these pages. Now these are petitions against the observance of Sunday. So they were getting it, they were hearing it from both sides, but the preponderance of it was for it. So we're going to look at these two pages here, 830 and 831. So there's page 830, 831. This is January 14th, 1890, I think. I'll read that date. 1889. Okay, so that's the date. So now we're going to look. This is in the Senate? It'll say up at the top. Commission. Yeah, Senate. Okay, so this is in the Senate. Wednesday, January 16, 1889. The president of the Senate presented a petition of 148 citizens of the state of Kansas praying for the passage of the Sunday rest law, which was referred to the Committee on Education and Labor. Bear with me. You're going to see why I'm showing you these in just a second. So now we move down. Mr. McCollum, I present a petition of the National Women's Christian Temperance Union. We've already talked about them. Department of Sabbath Observance, praying for the passage of the law prohibiting the running of interstate Sunday trains, Sunday mails, and military drills on the Sabbath. So Sunday, Sabbath, same thing. The petition is signed by 100 ministers of Chicago and vicinity in the state of Illinois. I move to be referred to the Committee on Education and Labor. The motion is agreed to. I also present several bundles of petitions, so he's presenting even more. I'm not going to read all that, but he presents even more. Now we got Mr. Cameron presented numerous petitions on the passage of the National Sunday Rest Law. Mr. Faulkner presented a petition of 2,591 citizens of West Virginia praying for the passage of the National Sunday Rest Law. Mr. Payne presented a petition of citizens of Ohio for the Sunday Rest Law. Mr. Hale, I present a petition of the same kind for the National Sunday Rest Law. Mr. Sherman, I wonder what he's going to do. I present a petition that was signed by 4,700 citizens praying for the passage of the National Sunday Rest Law. I also present a similar petition signed by 2,700 citizens of Ohio. I move the references to these petitions to the Committee on Education and Labor. Mr. Platt, so he presents this, but then he realizes that I find that some mistake has been made, that they are the names of the citizens of South Carolina. Well, he's from Connecticut and he's presenting a position from South Carolina. Says, but I trust the senator from South Carolina will have no objection to my presenting the petition. Mr. Butler says, I'm very glad to see that it comes from that source, so they accept it. Mr. Farwell, he presents the National Sunday Rest Law. I wanted to show you those. Just to show you, that's those 10. This was Wednesday, January 15th, or whatever the date was. That was these 10. There's still that many more. They are just getting bombarded with petitions to pass this Sunday rest law. So on January 16, there are 24 senators in all that presented petitions, 19 Republicans and 5 Democrats. So we see there's just they're getting hammered with people begging for this Sunday rest law. So Mr. Blair, he's the last one that steps up. So he says, I present a petition from several bodies praying for the passage of the National Sunday Rest Law. Of the petition, the following analysis has been submitted by those who desire their presentation. Okay, so he saves his till last. We're not going to read all of this. It's a breakdown, but he has a petition of 14 million people with this passage. So this passage, this was not a top-down, the government forcing this on people. This was from people asking for it. This is what's going to happen again. The people are going to ask for it. It's not going to be something that's heavy-handed. It's going to look like this comes from people asking for it. There's going to be some trigger event. Who knows what it is? We're not saying what it is, but there'll be some event that will cause people to ask for this. So he goes through there and lists all these different groups. Lastly, he says the Women's Christian Temperance Union. You see this over and over again. This group had 185,000 at this time of the vote. The Roman Catholics, for whom Cardinal Gibbons will be a big figure here later, speaks of the number of 7.2 million. Deducting from those who are twice or thrice represented, the petition represents 13.5 million people. So he presents his petition, 13.5 million people. I did not put that on here, but at the time, there was around 100 million, so it was around 100 million. So it was almost 20% of America signed these petitions. This was a big deal. Okay, so you got all these petitions for the passage of Blair's bill that we'd already seen earlier. So now we move to out of the 50th Congress. It says in the congressional record, you can see that the Sunday law petition movement increasingly increased dramatically between 1888 and 1891 after appearing weekly under the petitions and memorials. So every week you would have senators producing more and more of these petitions. So let's look at a statute that was passed in the first session of the next Congress. So remember there, the petitions were asking for the passage of the Sunday rest law. So here's the statutes at large. Statute that was passed. So we're going to look and see what this statute that was passed. It says an act to provide for the celebration of the 400th anniversary of discovery of America by Christopher Columbus by holding an international exhibition of arts, industries, manufacturers, and the product of the soil, mine, and sea in the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois. So what's happening? We've got this Sabbath issue coming to a head, but business continues on in the Senate, so they're wanting to enact this statute to allow for the Chicago World's Fair of 1893 is what this is going forward. So I'm not going to read all of this, but it talks about the World's Columbian Exposition is what they call it, but I call it the World's Fair of 1893. But anyways, starts this in motion and gives Chicago the permission to go ahead and start moving forward with construction and starting to get ready for this World's Exposition. So that's on the back burner. That act was passed in April of 1890. So remember, we saw in the congressional record that you can see the Sunday law petition movement was increasing between 1888 and 1891 under these weekly petitions and memorials. But now that we've got the World's Fair entering the scene, now watch how these changed. So now these petitions developed a new angle. So now let's look at just 2 petitions from this next session of Congress. So now we're in the next session, back in we're in the House now. Petitions. Mr. Funston, petition of the United Presbyterian Church of Kansas, also the Women's Christian Temperance Union of the same city, against opening on Sunday any exposition where appropriations of the United States are expended to the Select Committee on the World's Fair. So now what do they change to? Now they've changed their angle. They've changed their argument a little bit. Now it's not just a Sunday law, but Now they're saying, no, you can't open the fair on Sunday if it's using government money. That should be a notice to our church. When you accept government money, they can tell you what to do with it. So that was that one. Mr. Gear, same thing, blah, blah, blah. Prayed for the passage of a bill to prohibit the opening on Sunday of any exposition which is aided by government to the selection committee. So now they're starting to, and who was putting that forth is the Women's Temperance Union. They've discovered a new angle that they can attack this and say, wait a minute, if they won't just pass the Sunday law outright, we can tie it to money and then make them do it.
Robert,
Yes, sir.
is there any correlation between the senators from certain states back then and the senators from the same states today that are pushing the Sunday thing? Is it in the same grouping?
Same areas?
basically, of states?
Not that I saw. Now, this was over 130 years ago, so it's calmed back down, but I did find it interesting that, on that Wednesday of the petitions that were submitted, now that was just one day out of a whole year, but on that one day, 19 senators were Republicans, only 4 or 5 of them were Democrats. Nowadays, which party tends to be more religious?
No.
I'm just saying, just watch trends and just be aware of how things have happened in the past. Just watch. I'm not saying how anything is gonna happen. We're not making any predictions, but just be aware of history, because history tends to repeat itself. Okay, so now we saw that those petitions, now they've changed the petitions now, not just asking for Sunday rest, but now they're tying it to monies given out by the government. Did these petitions produce any bills? Let's continue that 52nd Congress. There's a famous bill, not famous bill, but if you're studying this, it's famous. A bill by Mr. Morris. This is in the House. It was a HR House Resolution 194 to prohibit the opening of any exhibition or exposition on Sunday where appropriations of the United States are expended. So now he's put forth a bill that actually says, okay, if we're giving you money, you cannot open it on Sunday. This is a bill that he's put forth. This was on Tuesday, January 5. Now we're going to go a little over a month later into the Senate. So there's a House resolution. Now we're going to see if there's a complementary bill in the Senate. This gentleman is a senator, Democrat from Georgia. Who's heard of Colquitt County, Georgia?
Oh, yeah.
You have? This got nothing to do with this guy. Yes, because I had heard of Colquitt County, and I'm like, that's got nothing to do with this guy. He was another senator earlier. Okay, so Mr. Colquitt, by request, introduced a bill, now that's the Senate Bill 2168, to prohibit the opening of any exhibition or exposition on Sunday where appropriations of the United States are expended. It's the same thing in the House, now it's in the Senate. This was about a month later in February. So now we got these two bills put forward tying closing on Sunday to monies, and they're not saying the 1893 World's Fair. They're just saying any exposition or exhibition. Well, which one has just been approved to be started? So these bills aren't just coincidence. They're all being laid the framework is being laid because they know that more than likely than not, the Chicago World's Fair is probably going to want some money at some point. And we get this in the bills ahead of time, we can already tie the Sunday law to any monies that is given out later. Very clever, very clever. They're laying their groundwork before Chicago needs the money, but in case they do, we're ready. So you got the House bill and the Senate bill. Now, these are still bills, they're not a law yet. So how do we get the conditions for these bills? So we need a resolution, we need something to make this law, make this official. So we got this Democrat, House Representative from Pennsylvania. So he puts forward HR 9710. This is the big one. This is to aid in carrying out the act of Congress approved April 25, 1890. That was the statute that I already showed you for approving this, the World's Exposition in Chicago. This, between these quotation marks, it's a long title to that bill. That's the bill he's talking about. But he says to aid in carrying out the act, he says, and appropriating money thereof. So this bill deals with giving money to that statute that they had already made law. So he presents that HR in the House. He says the yeas and nays are refused, tellers are refused. Anyway, they vote on it. And so here it says the clerk proceeded to read the bill entitled HR blah, blah, blah. And it's read there in Congress or in the House. That's the bill. We're going to get back to what that actually says, but that's the bill he's putting forward to aid in the act that had already been passed that approved the World's Fair. So this is the act that he's putting forward, and he's making the resolutions to tie monies to closing on Sunday. He's put that in this bill and it's going to make it law. So this is still in the House. It says HR 97 to 8 and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to find the end of those. There it is. And appropriating money thereof. So the Speaker of the House signs the bill. It was passed, HR 9710. Now the bill moves over to the Senate. So it was passed. So now it's on its way to becoming law. So it passes over to the Senate. To the Senate the very next day. So in the Senate, you see the same exact bill. This Mr. Pettigrew picks it up. It says a message from the House. The clerk announcing that the House had passed HR 97 and he wants to bring it up here in the Senate. It says, Mr. Pettigrew, the bill which has just come from the House of Representatives provides for an appropriation for the World's Columbian Exposition, and as a similar bill has been considered by the Select Committee on the Quadricentennial, I ask unanimous consent for the immediate consideration of the House bill. Well, now they just, instead of writing their own bill, and this is what happens all the time, they take the bill that was passed out of the House, they just bring that exact bill over, and if they vote on it there in the Senate, then it becomes law, or then it passes on to the president to sign into law. So the House has already passed it, now the Senate passes it, and now the vice president signs it, vice president later that day, and is signed into law by the president. So the vice president is always the head of the Senate, president of the Senate. So he signed it as the Senate passed it. Since then it was passed by the House and the Senate, then it moves on and it's signed into law by the president. Now we've got a little civics lesson. So the expo in August 5 of 1892, the expo funds appropriated. So now they're saying that any money that has been given or is going to be given to the World's Fair, once you accept it, now the fair has to be closed on Sunday. So those are the two bills that we just talked about. There's the one in the House, there's the one in the Senate, they're the exact same bill. This paragraph here, very interesting. Okay, so here's the official statutes where you'll see it in the official records of the Congress. I tell you what, I will attach this as well if you want to read the whole bill. It's not that long. But what it's talking about is, here it is, an act to carry out the act of Congress approved April 25th, 1890, entitled that, and appropriating money thereafter. So there's the part that we've read before, where here is the actual bill that was signed into law. What happens is, I'm just going to summarize this and we try to get to the end of this today. What happened is they approved this act where they were going to collect money by issuing these commemorative coins. And they were 50-cent pieces, and they were going to sell them for $1 a piece. And the proceeds would then go to help fund the World's Fair. So that's what this act is doing. It says, okay, we're going to generate money by selling these commemorative coins, And any proceeds will then go to funding the World's Fair. So this whole sentence, this whole paragraph, which strange enough is, I think, one sentence. It's crazy. It's one sentence and it just talks about how they're gonna put together these coins. That's what that all is talking about. These, oh, there's a period. It says souvenir coins thereby provided for and thereby is hereby appropriated out of the monies in the treasury, not otherwise appropriated the sum of $50,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary to reimburse the treasury. So they, out of the proceeds, so they got to pay for making the coins and then the proceeds would go to that. Remember when I showed you in the House bill, there was one paragraph that was highlighted a different color. This is that paragraph. So the section 4 of this law that was passed says that it is hereby declared that all appropriations herein made for pertaining to the World's Columbian Exposition are made upon the condition that the said exposition shall not be open to the public on the first day of the week, commonly called Sunday. So there it is right there in law that if you take this money, you have to close the fair on Sunday. So all the work done by the Women's Temperance Union, trying to get a Sunday day of rest, and that not going anywhere, then the World's Fair comes along and they say, oh, we can tie the money to a Sunday day of rest. So those petitions went forward. Then there's those two bills in the House and the Senate saying that any money that given to exposition or expositions shall be tied to staying closed on Sunday. All of that finally come to fruition here in this law. So there's your first law dictating that it was to be closed on Sunday. So what was HR 9710? In short, Congress agreed to mint and sell 5 million silver half dollars with the proceeds to go to the Columbian Exposition for the purpose of aiding in defraying the cost of completing in a suitable manner the work of preparation for inaugurating the World's Columbian Exposition upon the condition that the exposition not be open on Sunday. That was the key thing. These were actually the first commemorative coins ever minted by the United States. They were sold for $1 a piece. So that's what it looked like. Show and tell. They were minted for 2 years. They were minted in 1892. That one there shown is 1893. I've got an 1892 and an 1893. You can pass that around and look at it. Because I am a nerd.
Yes.
So those are two of the coins that were, thank you, Marlon.
Just making sure it's real.
That's dollar. So yeah, so those were minted and sold. I think the act called for minting of 5 million of them. I think only about half of them were ever actually minted. But they were sold and then the monies was given to the exposition with that condition. So in August 19 of 1892, the Expo accepts the funding and the Sunday condition. Then the next year in April, Illinois State Commission votes to open on Sunday. Show you why. That may be a typo. That's a typo. That's when they voted to. I got to go back and look at that note. That one.
April Fools.
Yeah, I think I fooled myself there. I put this together 2 weeks ago. Now I don't remember why I said votes to open on Sunday. Because then the next month, the expo opens, but not on Sunday. So that's a typo there.
Maybe the first was a Sunday.
No, it was initially closed on Sunday.
No, it's me. It's a typo. It's a typo. Anyway, so on May 1st, 1893, that's why I call it the 1893 World's Fair. The fair opens, but not on Sunday, the first time. But there's a problem. People now the rest of the country is rising up and they're complaining, why can't you open on Sunday? That's the only day I've got off work. That's the only day I can go. So this is a news article way out from Deer Lodge, Montana. And they're talking about the World's Fair. It says people open the gates, people see the fair one Sunday at least. So it was open on the first Sunday, maybe that was it. They opened it on Sunday, the first Sunday. It says over 100,000 in attendance, illuminating in the evening, many of the blah, 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 World's Fair grounds. It was opened that first Sunday.
Saturday was the first year.
Oh, okay. So the expo opens on Sunday, officially opens on Sunday at the end of the month because there was so much reaction to it being closed on Sunday. So if the fair opens finally on Sunday at the end of May, the fair only runs for 4 months, not very long. So we'll end it here. These are some pictures of the World's Fair, and it mainly focused right here around this lake. None of this is there now in Chicago. None of that's there. But I mean, it was a big deal. It was very grand. We could talk about that statue another day. So I mean, these were big buildings and they were put up and taken down fairly quick. So that gives you a scale of that statue. It's big.
So was this all like at the mouth of the river?
No, this is south. This is south of the river, up there by the Navy Pier. This is south of that.
Oh, okay.
Where was Ferris's wheel?
No more questions. No. Well, where was Ferris's what?
It's the Ferris wheel, that's where it came from.
Oh, yes.
So where was it located on that?
Yes, a good question. Thank you, Chris. In another presentation, I actually showed that. Yes, the Ferris wheel. Mr. Ferris created this big Ferris wheel, and that was the first Ferris wheel ever made. And the box cars were like hanging trolley cars. They were huge. And so the Ferris wheel itself was just massive. Yeah, I forgot about the Ferris wheel. I don't think I've got it doesn't show up in any of the pictures on that, but it's there on the grounds. Not now the big Ferris wheel's up at the Navy Pier, but for the World's Fair it was down closer to here. But if you want to see a reproduction of this statue, there's still one in Chicago. It's in the park where this used to be. I don't think it's the same one, it's a smaller version. So the expo closed on, what is that, October 30th, the expo closes. So I just want to show you how the Sunday Sabbath rest and Sunday observance was huge. This was a big deal. It wasn't just being talked about in churches. It went all the way up into the government. It affected government. There was laws passed to legally enforce its observance.
Is it possible to send that chart to us too?
Let me fix that. Let me fix that right there. And I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'll send, if anybody wants this chart just to show how it worked its way through history. Amy, can you make a note?
Sure.
Because I'll forget that. There's already something else I'm supposed to do, and I forgot that too. There's actually 2 things I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, there's 3 things. There's 3 things now. I don't see a pen moving, so you're gonna forget 2.
Put it in my head.
Okay, so yeah, I'll send that to you. So why did I want to show you all of this and how there's so much reaction in the public sphere that affected the government? This is where I want to end up, and this is where we're going to be for the next little bit. In 1893, this all came to a head. Well, in September. So the fair was closed in October. But in September, before the fair closed, there's a newspaper called the Catholic Mirror. It was a newspaper that came out every week. And for 4 consecutive weeks, there was articles written on the Christian Sabbath, mocking, if you will, all of these Protestants that are pushing for this Sunday law. So the Catholics are going to wade into the issue and start talking about the Protestants and their attitudes toward keeping the Sabbath and making it a day of rest. And they will put forth the question is Sunday the Sabbath to the Protestants? And the material or and the explanations that the Catholic Mirror provides for whether or not Sunday is the correct day of worship is amazing. And that's what we're going to study for the next couple of weeks. Actually, I've got this printed out and it's all ready to put in your binders. So next week, if you bring your binders, I'll give you this so you can print it out so you can underline, highlight, and do whatever you want to with it. We're not going to go through the whole little book. I've underlined stuff that I thought was important and interesting. And it's 90% of the book, so we won't go through the whole thing. But it's the arguments that are presented there by the Catholic Church, they're just amazing. And they carry so much weight because it's not from a Sabbath-keeping church. They will tell you over and over and over again, if you want to keep the Sabbath, it's Saturday. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing to look at. So we'll pick up there next week. So let's end here with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for another Sabbath day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your prophecies that told us that there would be a power to think, to change times and laws. And we can see right in front of us how that has happened. Please send your Holy Spirit to be with us and guide us this week. Keep us safe and bring us back safely next Sabbath. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.